We've all been there. It's late, you're tired, you're hangry, but you don't want a shitty meal. Today you're in luck because I'm gonna be sharing with you how to make some of the most delicious, flavorful, and spicy breakfast tacos. And if you've ever been to Texas, you know it's a 24/7 meal. Later on in the Entrepreneur's Pantry, I'm gonna be sharing with you how to navigate through the art of having difficult conversations. If you're an entrepreneur who shies away and doesn't like to face life head on, or if you're someone who doesn't believe in the power of breakfast tacos to restore your faith in humanity, this is not for you. Otherwise, it's gonna be an amazing show, so stick around. Welcome to my home for another episode of Perfect Monday's Entrepreneur's Kitchen, where you get to learn how to make amazing meals and how to scale your business with a lot more purpose and joy while working half the time, all in one show. Today, you're gonna be learning how to make a delicious meal that doesn't require a lot of time, and it's a way for you to elevate your dinner game. So let's get to it. We don't have a lot of ingredients, but I'm gonna be making two versions. One with Angus roast beef and the other one with uncured turkey bacon. Both of them are super flavorful. They smell delicious. We're gonna be using one jalapeno pepper, green onions, a lime, and some cilantro, fresh cilantro. On this side, we're gonna be using salt, pepper, fresh eggs, avocado, any type of aged cheese. This is sharp cheddar. And instead of using those crusty sandals called tortillas that most people keep in their refrigerators, we're gonna be making our own with non-GMO blue corn masa. This is delicious. This is your weekly reminder to stay present when you're prepping your food. Don't throw this into a food processor or a blender. Stay with it, stay present, put some amazing music. We're gonna prep everything except for the uncured turkey bacon.
Yeah, hold on. Keep from falling.
We've got everything prepped except for the masa, and here's how we're gonna do it. Most masa that you buy is gonna give you what is the best ratio of masa for water. I typically don't measure because I've done it many times. This is super fine, and the finer it is, the better the texture in my mind. I'm gonna put the masa, a little bit of salt, and then I'm gonna be adding the water, mixing it until I get to a consistency where I feel is gonna be the best one for my tortillas. I want you to see this consistency right now. It's soft, it can break, but it doesn't stick that much to your fingers. And because we're not gonna be making the tortillas immediately, I'm gonna make it into a little ball, and I'm going to put a damp paper towel on top so that it retains the moisture. We've got everything prepped, and we're gonna split making these breakfast tacos into three parts. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cook the meat so it's crispy and ready. The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make the tortillas and keep them warm. And the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cook the eggs and put it all together. We're gonna put a little bit of olive oil on medium heat, and we're gonna have the jalapenos cook first with a little bit of salt, and then we're gonna add the meat.
You know you have it all just to stay afloat. No matter what they say, you know you're always right. You got a heart of gold, the moon is on your side, no matter where you go.
So you remember we added the wet paper towel to our masa so the moisture is retained. We're gonna take this off, and then we're gonna start making tortillas with little balls, kind of like this size. Now there's many ways to make tortillas. This is just my method. I'm not someone who just presses it and it's done in a perfect, beautiful round thing. Usually I have to press it once and then move it around and then press it at least one or two more times So it's the desired thickness. These ones are not gonna be super thin, even though I love thin tortillas, because we're putting a lot of stuff on top of it and salsa on top, and they're gonna break. So we're gonna make them thick. That's what she said. Here's a trick for tortillas. Usually you place them in your hand, you put them in the griddle. If you have a double griddle, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to make them, because you can make them both at the same time. You get into a rhythm where you're making them, pressing them, and turning them. It's a little bit of a circus act, but you can do this with your family. It's pretty fun. And you place them once for 1 minute. You turn them around for about another minute, maybe 45 seconds to a minute, and then you flip them for one last time. And the last time that you flip them is when they inflate. If they don't inflate, you've definitely done something wrong. And usually you can just press them a little to prompt them to inflate. Having fresh tortillas is not necessary, but it's a way to totally elevate your dinner game. Let's get to it.
Don't you know you're not alone? Won't you come into my life, into my life, into my life? Into my life. It's a state of mind to be in the moment. Step out of line into your heart. Don't you waste your time, just give it over.
Look at these beautiful tortillas. They're soft, they're delicious, they're non-GMO, and what a way to say I love you to the people that you're making dinner to and to make your own tortillas. Before we cook the eggs, we're gonna head to the Entrepreneur's Pantry, where I will be sharing with you how to have those nasty, pesky, shitty, difficult conversations and have amazing strategies so you can be effective, be a leader, still be compassionate, and get your point across.
1, 2, 3, rising by the minute, yeah, want your beat.
Welcome to this week's Entrepreneur's Pantry, where we're going to be talking about something that makes many entrepreneurs lose sleep at night, something that's really difficult, causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, but shouldn't have to be that way, which is how to master difficult conversations. Now, there's so many ways I can cut this segment. I've been very fortunate to help many of my clients navigate through difficult challenges, such as going into an organization and doing a strategic interventions because partners are about to kill each other, and unless they get that resolved, the partnership is going to dissolve, right? Or there's an employee who's disruptive who needs to be dealt with, or someone needs to get fired, but there's a lot of complications with that firing, or whether it is employees who don't get along with each other, or you name it. I've gone through so many of these challenges, and I can tell you firsthand that there's some key principles that apply to most of these things. Now, for purposes of this segment, because I don't have the time, I could literally do an entire 3-day workshop just on communication and improving that. Today I'm going to be focusing on how to deal with difficult conversations with employees. Many of these principles apply to other areas as well. To give you an example, I had a client a couple of years ago who came to me and said, Chris, I'm having a really difficult time with employee, we'll name her employee X. She's being somewhat disruptive. There were a lot of situations where she was not acting like a team player, but there was a catch to this. This employee by herself generated 1/4 of the company's revenue. Even though they had 100 employees, this employee generated over $1 million a year. Now, when something like that happens, it's not super easy just to solve it because there's a lot at stake. So I'm gonna take you through some of the steps that I would take to handle a situation like this. So the first step that I want you to do in order to solve this challenge is to cleanse your palate. What this means is take your most inspiring music that you can have and then jump for 60 seconds an imaginary rope. Or do something where you get your blood, your heart rate elevated, because I want you to change gears and completely disrupt your brain pattern so you can then focus on solving the problem. Once you cleared your palate, I want you to sit down for about 60 seconds and then do some deep breaths, and then you're able to go to step number 2, which means trimming the fat. This means that you're going to be removing the excess bullshit from the facts. Sometimes there's 98% story, 2% fact. So the way that I want you to approach this is when you're sitting down, play some nice, soothing, classical music and think for a moment that you're the most unbiased, fair, objective journalist, and your only purpose is to look at what has happened and jot down a few bullet points of facts. They have to be facts. You can't mix in there this asshole, etc., because then that's part of the story, right? So put the name of the person, put dates if you have them, put a specific action that happened, and then do your best to summarize this in very few bullet points. If you can't summarize it in a few bullet points, it means that you're still involved in the story. Do your best to just really get the facts, and then you can go to step number 3. Step number 3 is deciding what is the outcome of your conversation. Is this something where you just want to express to this person the way that you felt? Is this something that requires that other person to do something different? Is this something that you want to renegotiate? Precisely write down what is the outcome of that conversation, because everything that you do from this point on, including that conversation, is going to be revolving around that simple step. Step number 4 is designing how you want to have that conversation. Now, here's how I wanted to start. I wanted to start by writing what the facts are, which you already should have from your bullet points. The second thing that I wanted to focus on is, because you're dealing with a human being, I wanted to talk to this person about how these facts make you feel. You don't have to cry about it, you don't have to show a lot of anger or whatever, but it's important for the person to know how their behavior and the facts are affecting you at a personal level. For example, the fact that, on September the 3rd I told you this, and on October the 2nd I told you this, and whatever it is, like the number of dates, and that hasn't happened, makes me feel hopeless about how to work with you, or makes me feel like I've been taken advantage of, or makes me feel frustrated. Whatever it is, start tying those facts to the way it makes you feel. The way that I like to set up these conversations is because facts, until recent history with someone in the White House, have been irrefutable. Facts are facts. It's really hard for people to argue on facts. It's also really hard for people to argue on how things make you feel. They're your goddamn feelings, and you can feel exactly how you want to feel. So when you start talking with someone, say, this is what happened by numbers. That's why the facts need to be precise and without any bullshit or story. And then you talk about the way it makes you feel. You have a perfect setup for describing what are you needing to happen next. And this is where a lot of people lose, because when they ask for something, they're not precise. They say, I want you to be more proactive, or I want you to be more attentive. I want you to take better care of our customers, or whatever that is. So when you are stepping up to that part of your conversation you're creating, I want you to be ultra clear and ultra specific. So for example, if your first impulse is to say, I want you to be more attentive, I want you to ask yourself, how the hell would I know that this person is being attentive? And then write that. Oh, because this person is taking notes at the meetings, or because this person is reacting in a specific way to this specific request, right? So give them 2 or 3 examples for each one of your asks. I want to be more attentive, I want to be more proactive, and I want it to be more responsible. What the hell does proactive mean? I don't fucking know, right? So when you write those things down, make sure that they are clear to someone who doesn't know anything about this conversation. So if someone that doesn't understand this could understand those points, that's how you're setting clear expectations, and you're starting to shift the communication in a powerful way to tell them what you want. Step number 5, I want you to practice this, and I want you to do it 3 or 4 times, and I want you to do it out loud. Why? Because something magical happens with your brain when your brain can hear your voice saying something, so it's not the first time that you're saying it in front of the person when you're nervous. If you've already stumbled across all your BS while you're practicing, then when you have this conversation, it's going to be a lot more natural, your energy is going to be a lot calmer, and the other person's reaction is potentially going to be a lot easier. And the way you want to start this conversation whenever you're practicing it is like, hi, I'm going to say Joanne, say, hi Joanne, I want to talk to you today, and my outcome is, you can say something as easy as, we're letting you go, if that's what your outcome is, or I'm talking to you about something that needs to be changed, I'm going to be telling you exactly how to change it, or my outcome for you is to renegotiate the way that we're paying you, or the way that you're managing X, Y, and Z. Whatever it is, you say it out up front, so there's less tension in the conversation. You don't want to surprise them at the end with what the hell you're talking about. And then you start reading the facts, you start reading how that makes you feel, and the specific ways in which you want them to change that behavior. Now, I'll have to say a couple of things. When you finish that, I wanted to ask for their reaction. I want to understand what are your thoughts on this, and if there's any obstacles that you have right now to make this happen. Very recently, I have a client of mine who was dealing with an employee who was not stepping up to the level that they needed, and when she went and dug deep, she found out that they had a huge mess with the way that they were managing information, and she told me, I myself would have had a challenge to do what I was requesting of her because there was a big mess that I didn't know about. So sometimes there's a lot of challenges that you may not know about, but you just want to ask, are there any obstacles that would prevent you from making this happen? The second thing that I'll tell you about these conversations is that oftentimes there's no consequences, or there have not been consequences. And maybe the consequence is that they need to know, I wanted to let you know that we're going to give you a test period of 1 month, and if it doesn't work out, we won't be able to work together anymore, right? They need to know what's happening, because if not a consequence, and this is something that's happening again and again, it's going to be really hard for them to take this seriously or to know what you really mean. Step number 6 is visualizing how you want the conversation to happen. So once you've practiced it, you visualize it, and then you have it. If you do these steps, I'm not guaranteeing that you can have an incredible outcome, but you have, by leaps and bounds, 100 times more chances of this going in your favor. I hope this is helpful. And now let's get back into that kitchen to finish those amazing, delicious, flavorful, spicy breakfast tacos. The way I like to make the eggs for these tacos is not scrambled because they're gonna fall all over the place. I like to make them over hard, and when they're almost done, then I add the green onions.
I've been on the road, out here with the squad. Everybody tryna go, yeah, the party jumping off. Hey, we putting on a show, tryna catch a vibe. We do this every time, like na 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 na. Feeling like I'm on the highway, cause everything been going my way. And now they looking at me sideways. I'm like na 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 na.
These eggs are perfectly done over hard. I'm gonna put them here. And here's how we're gonna make this magic happen. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have, while they're still hot, we're gonna put some of the cheddar cheese on top. And it doesn't have to melt all the way, but it's gonna give it a little bit of a creamy and still strong taste of sharp cheddar. The next thing we're gonna do is, for the one that has the bacon, we're gonna add a couple of slices of bacon. The one that has the Angus beef, this is super crunchy. We're just gonna put it on top. Delicious. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the jalapenos. These are fried and they're absolutely delicious. They're not as spicy. If you want to make this a spicy recipe, you probably wanna make this with serrano pepper or some pepper that's a lot harder than that. We're gonna open this delicious avocado from Mexico. And we're gonna just add maybe a couple of slices to each one. We're gonna add some, you can have some homemade salsa. Today is not a salsa episode, but if you have store-bought, that's great. This one is roasted tomato and it's pretty delicious. So I'm gonna put some of these on top. And we're gonna add some fresh cilantro at the very top. Take your lime. You can just put a wedge here. Why? Because it tastes delicious. Tiny pinch of salt on top. Tiny bit of pepper. Why? Because it's gonna be amazing.
My life, everything is going alright. Ooh, I just made them look twice. This is how it feels when you live in that.
So here goes nothing.
I'm just living that good life. I'm just living that good life.
Wow. If this taco, holy shit. If this taco doesn't restore your faith in humanity, nothing will, guaranteed. I hope that you spend some time making amazing meals for your family. I hope that you spend some time communicating effectively. And until next time, love your life, love what you eat, and love your business. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you tried this food. And if you liked it, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. And also, if you're a woman entrepreneur and you want to scale your business, if you're tired of knocking your head against the wall and you want to grow in a way that's sustainable, where you have a lot more purpose and a lot more joy, there's gonna be a link underneath the description of this video where we can connect and explore if we might be a good fit to work together.
They ain't seen nothing